Previously on All Things Unexplained.
I've always believed that there was a critter out there, a Bigfoot-like critter, and that came from my daddy. Like we said, he listened to late night on the radio. He would tell us stuff he had heard, about Bigfoot on there. And I think he read the men's True and a couple of the men's magazines, and there'd be stories in those. I wrote about this in one of my articles. He talked about a wild man that lived back. He was from upstate New York, is where he grew up and lived all his life till he went in the army. This wild man, he would have nightmares about wrestling this wild man. And one night, he was just moaning and groaning and tossing and turning. And Mama reached over, grabbed him by the shoulder to wake him up. And when he did, he put her in a hammerlock.
All Things Unexplained. Hosted by Dr. Mounts.
Let's face it, we were always ready to roll without him anyway.
CJ Derringer.
Ain't nobody perfect, right?
And Smitty Neves.
I've never planned out hardly anything my whole life. I just freeball.
Featuring Cajun Man.
I'm just old nobody, somebody looking for somebody.
We are lucky enough to have an author with us. She's written some young reader books, some nonfiction books, some fiction books. She's a freelance writer and photographer. She's an expert in self-publishing. She has a plethora of experience with horses. I think the list goes on and on. Please welcome to our show, Donna Campbell Smith. Hello, Donna.
Donna listener Deborah Brown wonders maybe your dad actually saw the wild man.
I don't know. He didn't ever say that he did. I think he would have told us if he had. By the way, Deborah's my daughter.
Oh,
that's
wonderful. Hi, Deborah.
She knows who I'm talking about.
But, that was my
though. I have a feeling that him being a teenager at that time and, imagination and curiosity running away with you, that made an impact on him.
Absolutely. Well, you did such a nice job. I felt we've had lots of Bigfoot experts on the show who they all talk to us about Bigfoot in terms of being actually very peaceful beings unless they are threatened in some way, and that they don't show themselves unless they trust that they are in a safe space, and the idea of these offerings, and they send things back, and the smells and the sounds of Bigfoot, they just apparently have a very, very distinct, awful smell to them, and just wild.
I did an article with top 10 ways to know if you have a Bigfoot, so I went through each of those things and all.
I saw that article.
But the ones that make the impact to me are the people who have seen them.
Yes.
There can't be that many people have seen something and there not be any truth to it. So
right.
And a lot of these attributes, like the peacefulness or whatever, I can relate that to bears, because this woman that I was telling you about, Kay Grayson, she fed them. She went to restaurants. She lived, she'd go to Manio to get supplies. Somebody would take her. She didn't drive. Go to the barbecue joints and get the scraps and stuff, and go to those places where they sell the day-old bread. So she fed them, so they, and they're opportunists like all wildlife. Are going to take the easiest route to food. So I would think a Bigfoot wouldn't be any different.
Yeah, so I thought you did such a nice job incorporating all of those traits of Bigfoot into this story and developing your characters. It was just very well written. It was a very fun read for me.
Thank you so much.
So
that's music to an author's ears.
Good.
Oh, so this is a big compliment, Donna. So a long-time listener of the show, George Winter, said, "Hey guys, y'all just beat the Saints of Newark for viewers. I turned it off to see you."
Oh, wow. Thanks.
I believe that is the new, what's the mafia show prequel? George, you had to the Sopranos. I believe that's the Sopranos prequel. George must have HBO Max. I thought about checking it out.
HBO Max ain't got nothing on us.
I agree, George. Donna is much more interesting than the Sopranos. I could tell you that.
Certainly. Oh, so fun.
Donna, I wanted to ask you, do you have any advice for aspiring authors?
Yes, I do. Just do it.
Oh.
That was the advice given to me. I was standing in a pasture, talking with a friend, and had just separated and getting divorced from my husband. And I said to her, I said, when this is all over with, I'm going to write a book. And she says, just do it now. And that's what you have to do. You just start writing. You don't worry about the mechanics or what you know how to do or not, because there's critique groups out there, there's editors, there's people to help you with that stuff, you know. Just write your story down. That's it.
I love it. That's great advice. What other authors are you fans of or have inspired you?
Well, my favorite books from childhood were two books by Zane Grey. Let's see if I can remember the titles. One was The Trail. Let's see. The Last Trail. I can't remember them, but they were about the Zanes, who were real life pioneers, I think, in the West Virginia area. And those two books just captured my imagination about living, you know, in the wilderness and surviving in the wilderness. And but now my favorite authors are, I like Southern women's fiction. I like Nancy Peacock. I like Diane Chamberlain, but two who we've had. I'm the team leader for the Writers Guild in our Franklin County Arts Council. We used to have retreats before COVID, and they both came and spoke. And North Carolina is very rich in best-selling authors. And let's see, who else do I like? Ann Siddons. She's from South Carolina, Low Country, so that's the setting for a lot of her books. We have a great group. We have several published authors in our Franklin County Arts Council's Writers Guild. And if I start naming them, I'm going to leave somebody out. Jackie's written several. She's a poet and a spoken word artist. She is also working on a novel right now. Kay Watley, that owns the Gray Area News, which is probably where you saw the article about my book. She writes novels that involve time travel and just make you feel like, yeah, that can happen. They're really good. And who else? I know we got a bunch. Campbell writes fantasy, I guess. It's there's fairies, there's ghosts, there's all kinds of strange creatures, and she writes. It makes you think it all just can really happen. And I've never been a big fantasy fan, and I don't think my book's fantasy, because I think Bigfoot is real. So, but I'm getting indoctrinated into enjoying some fantasy and sci-fi and stuff. I've broadened my horizon.
Jackie Dove.
You're welcome, Jackie.
I think that's the only way to be. Jackie said thanks for the shout out.
Mm-hmm.
Donna, and I tell you what, you mentioned time travel, and I will. I've been intrigued to see what she's written. And you know, Donna, you mentioned time travel, and that's such a tricky thing to write about because of the physics of it all, and just so many paradoxes and what the rules of it are. You know, it's a really intimidating subject to get into is time travel, because I've heard a lot of people when they delve into that, they have to just get a whiteboard out, you know, and start, okay, here's the rules. This is what happens if you do this, and this is what happens if you interact with other people. It's the Back to the Future effect, right? This is what happens if CJ goes back into time and meets herself. You know, this is what happened if CJ goes back into time and meets her dad,
Yeah. Or goes back and
so
changes
there's just
something,
so many tricky things. Right. So many tricky things. Does it create a new universe? Does it just change the one future, or does it create a new future with a new universe? So, I mean, it's just so many things. CJ, I was wondering, what some of your favorite authors?
Oh, goodness. Well, Dr. Seuss. I'm really into children's books right now.
He's brilliant.
He's brilliant. He really is brilliant. Everything that I read of his, and it's so fun to rediscover him now as an adult because, as a kid, you're like, oh, it rhymes. Oh, it's great. Oh, look at these fun pictures. But as an adult, he has some just phenomenal concepts and ideas and just a learning experience every time. So that's really fun. And then also my background as an elementary education teacher, just the way that he brings phonics into his books and makes them fun. I really do love Dr. Seuss. And then, of course, Mo Willems is a little bit of a newer author for me. He's a children's author as well. He makes
Mo.
Go Mo, that's right. He makes just the best, most enjoyable kids' books, too. They're just too funny, and I love reading them and getting very animated as I read them to my children, and they sometimes get sick of that. My oldest keeps telling me, don't, Mom, it's so loud. I'm like, how dare they say I'm loud? That's not fair. They're the loudest ever. As an adult, I have read so many different authors that I've loved. I love reading books that make me think. I couldn't name the authors of some of these, but The Art of Racing in the Rain, I thought was a really phenomenal book. There's a book called 1,000 White Women, which was very intriguing, about some Native American tribes that were trying to assimilate and not lose their land, and that was a very interesting one. That one took sort of a true part of history and where it ended, and then wrote a fictionalized novel from there, which I thought was really cool. Mm-hmm. We've read Agatha Christie, which she is just fantastic. Harlan Coben's one of my favorite mystery sort of authors, murder mystery, which is shocking because I don't like anything scary, but I do like his books.
They're cozy.
What's that?
I said they're cozy.
No,
mysteries.
they're not.
They actually are not.
No, they are far from it.
Harlan's are
William
not.
Jackson
cozy at
Brown,
all.
the Cat Who books. I read a bunch of those. Those were entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
So I think you two are the perfect candidates, CJ and Donna. And by the way, we're talking to award-winning author Donna Campbell Smith, Unexplained Ones. Go out, get My Neighbors from the Woods. It is incredible. CJ and I have both read it. One reason I love it is because it's such a character study, and I truly mean this. It reminds me a lot, honestly, of some of Stephen King's writings, because, you might think
Not that
it's
scary, is it?
Bigfoot
Not
book,
that scary.
but then it,
No,
not scary, but here's
scary.
what I mean. It's not scary, but here's what I mean. Stephen King will write a book, and you might think it's about this really out there idea, right? But it's actually about people, right? Like, you learn about all these different characters and how they interact with each other and what they're thinking and what their story is and what has framed them into the person that they are. And that's what a lot of his stories are really about. They're just about people. And I thought that My Neighbors from the Woods was a lot about that. We learned so much about Maggie, and it was such I thought, character study of this intriguing lady. But I think you two are the perfect candidates to answer this question. What book belongs on everyone's bookshelf? And I love it. Deborah Brown, said just like E.T. I might have to process that for a minute. E.T., by the way, was the first movie I ever saw in a movie theater.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was 7 years old, so I have to tell this real quick. If my friend Scott Bailey still listen, Scott and I both grew up in rural Pontotoc County, Mississippi. And when I was 7 years old, E.T., the extraterrestrial, came out, right? And there was one theater in the whole county, the Joy Theater. It was on the Pontotoc Square, right? And Molly and Daddy took me to see that, and I guess my little brother too, maybe. I can't remember if he was there or not. Who cares about him being there? And the line of people were wrapped around the town square to go see E.T. And you know what? Looking back on it, I can't believe they let me see that, because that was actually kind of a scary movie for kids. But anyway, Donna, what book do you think belongs on everybody's
Oh
bookshelf?
my goodness, I don't know, because everybody's so different. I probably would say the Bible. There's some good stories in there.
That's what I was
Probably the
Scary
most
ones.
bold.
I don't know. I can't answer your question, Tim.
I think you did.
That's okay. I would have to say, if not a Stephen King book, then the Bible. That might seem contradictory, but you can't have good. That's the thing. You can't have good without evil.
Yep.
So, but the Bible has so many terrific stories in it, whether you take them as literal or not. They're just timeless stories that actually span, all across the whole world, across all kinds of different people and times and groups. So
I used to read stories
I can't disagree with
to
the
my
Bible.
granddaughter. The one she wanted me to read her over and over was where David chopped the head off of the giant, and I'm just like,
Well, what's your favorite book of
Mine?
the Bible then, Donna? Is it David?
I think it's Psalms, just
Yes.
because it's the poetry, and I like to read them out loud and just enjoy the meter and the rhythm, and yeah, it's probably Psalms.
Oh, yeah. And, of course, Psalms, I believe, stands
Yeah,
for songs, right?
It is
And
for the poetry.
this may tell you something about me, right? It's a beautiful book, but this may tell you something about me. My favorite book of the Bible is Revelations.
Yeah,
So there's just something
Mystery.
about Armageddon, right? The apocalypse, avenging angels,
okay,
plagues.
something for everybody.
That's right.
Oh my.
And like Bigfoot, so many theories about what it is and what it means.
Oh yeah, well, people think that Bigfoot is mentioned in the Bible.
Well, there was the
Like,
giants,
it
yeah.
even goes back to biblical times.
Donna, your story about reading the head getting cut off reminds me of I grew up in California, and I spent a lot of time in Santa Barbara, California, and I used to babysit often when I was in college. And I worked for a children's fitness center, and my boss had me watch her kids one day, and she had four kids under the age of 4. And her husband were like, just survive. Like, just survive, we'll be back. If everybody's alive at the end, you did your job. But she did say, okay, here's the routine: bath, brush their teeth, they get 2 books, and then they go to bed. So we did the whole routine. Everything's going great. And I go to put the kids to bed. I say, okay, what do you guys want to read? And their oldest daughter, who was maybe 5 at the time, because we want to read this book. And she pulls out this young kids' Bible. Very, very shortened version of the Bible. Very short stories. She goes, we're on this chapter. And it's the chapter about the devil. I'm like, oh, okay, not thinking anything of it. So I read them the chapter on the devil, thinking that they've clearly read this before. The girl she knows what she wants. So, they go to bed or whatever, and the parents get home, and I leave. And the next day, my boss goes, what did you read to them? Like, I just read that little children's Bible that you guys had there. They asked me to read chapter 5. Yeah, they asked you to read chapter 5 because we've refused to read them chapter 5. They were all terrified last night. Well, that was not in the instructions. They all survived, so I did my job.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every preacher knows, and if Smitty was here, he would tell you, every preacher knows that sometimes you have to break out the fire and brimstone. Like it's just necessary sometimes.
Oh boy. Yeah, they were fascinated with that one.
Donna, do you have any superstitions?
No, not really. Not. I'm pretty much a realist, I guess. That's the thing with writing about Bigfoot. If I didn't believe he was real, I probably couldn't write about him.
Right, that makes sense.
Well, and your character's very much a realist too. in the story. I got that from your character a lot. And she had so many yummy cookie recipes. Are these some cookie recipes that you yourself make?
Not me, but I have my my daddy's sister. They all lived up in right on the state line between Pennsylvania and New York. Some of them lived in New York, some of them lived in Pennsylvania. Anyway, she made these most wonderful cookies, and the cookie jar was always full whenever we went to visit, and you could just get one anytime you wanted to. And they were soft, and they had nuts, and they had like the fruit, like you goes to the fruit cake, and they were just and nutmeg. So
Oh,
I had a little reunion meeting with my cousins at the beach one time, and I was asking um, Joanne. I said, "Do you have?" Because my aunt had passed away by then. Um, Aunt Myrtle's cookie recipe, the ones that she made that were soft and had nutmeg. And she says, "Yes, let me go out to the car and get it." And she had a 3-ring binder with all of Aunt Myrtle's recipes. So I got the recipe for the cookies, and that recipe was Aunt Myrtle's grandmother's. So it would have been my
oh, wow.
great great grandmother's. Anyway, it was like 100 years old recipe, and so I've made that once. I made the batch, and it makes like 3 dozen cookies. And because I was trying not to eat sweets, I was just giving cookies away to everybody. So I haven't made them
Oh, I
again.
love
Maybe I'll
that.
make them at Christmas time this year.
You need to make them.
Yeah.
Yes. So it talks about like hickory nut cookies and all these cookies. So here I was reading this book, and she always had cookies ready for whoever came over. Everybody always had some kind of cookie ready for people to dunk
Well,
in their
my mother
coffee
was
in your
that way
book.
too. She always had some kind of goodies
Oh,
in the
okay.
pantry, and when people would just drop by Mama's house unannounced any time of day, and she'd put on the coffee pot and bring out the goodies. And
Oh,
so there was
gosh.
always
Uh, Yes.
homemade
Well, I
goodies.
had a friend drop by. I had a friend drop by today, and I had this like pang inside of me because I didn't have any cookies to offer. Here I had just read about all of these women that have these treats ready to go, and I was like, I've got some, I don't know, veggie straws in the pantry.
Yeah,
Like, what can I
I
get
didn't
you?
inherit it.
Oh, I need to find it.
Well, CJ, let me ask your opinion on something. So Maggie, we're in the book My Neighbors from the Woods, we're by award-winning author Donna Campbell Smith, who's with us tonight. CJ, Maggie, the main character in the book, she has this male friend that comes over and visits, right? And the town, and I don't want to give too much away, but the townspeople really think they should be an item. Do you think he, you know, felt like he wanted to be an item with Maggie, or did he really just like the cookies?
Well, he did come over for coffee and cookies a lot. It was like, I'll see you in the morning for coffee.
Hmm.
But is that what is it, the key
I
to
was
a
getting ready to
man's
Coffee
say,
and
that's
heart,
what
cookies.
Mom
or
said. The
it's through
quickest
the
way to a
stomach?
man's heart's through his stomach.
That's right.
I don't know.
He certainly enjoyed the coffee.
And that, you know what else that made me think of? CJ and Donna, I have to tell you this. One of our favorite guests of the show is a female Bigfoot author, and I would say very much Bigfoot expert from Idaho. And she talks to a lot of people who have Bigfoot encounters. And one of her stories involves a man who has a female Bigfoot admirer. And he always knows when a date is going to go terrible if he brings her over, because the female Bigfoot gets upset, throws things at them, generally creates a chaotic temper tantrum of a scene, you know. So that is one thing I wondered in the book, where any of the Bigfoots potentially, you know, upset by John and her relationship with him, or her potential relationship with him.
That hadn't occurred to
I just
me.
wondered that. There may not be an
Um,
answer.
no, I don't know. I mean, they would perceive him as a threat just because of him working for the forestry.
Right.
and knowing that they weren't particularly welcome in the forest, the Bigfoot by them. That ties into some of
Oh,
the conspiracy
Deborah,
theories I've read and listened to
right.
about why.
Yes.
We have a similar
what?
thing in here in eastern North Carolina. I wrote an article about cougars. Ever since I've been a child, I've known that there were cougars in northeast North Carolina. And so I wrote that article, and I had over 100 people comment. It was an online website that they had sightings. But
Oh,
if
wow.
you go to North Carolina Wildlife page, it unequivocally says that they're extinct in North Carolina, but they're not. So,
Really?
I understand that's a little controversy. And I don't know what the reason is for not wanting people to know that they're there, but they are.
Yeah, that's a great point, Donna. By the way, listener Deborah Brown says, haha, all it takes to get a man is a cookie.
I feel like we need to
Not sure
we
how I
need to
feel
get
about.
your great great grandma's cookie recipe and find some like single lady chat groups and be like, here you go.
Okay.
Take
I
this.
should have I should have published
It's-
Maggie's cookie recipe in the back of the book.
Yes, I'm feeling like we need it. We need to put that on our social media page. I want to make them. I need to make myself some hickory nut cookies. I have no idea where I would find hickory nuts, but
Well, and
I
Aunt
would make it
Myrtle used to
happen.
make the hickory nut cookies too, because she sent some to us for Christmas, and it's very tedious to. It's kind of like trying to crack out a walnut, because I have a little hickory tree in the backyard, and I haven't even tried to pick them out because it's not much nut for
So
the shell that you have to go through to get to it. You got to beat it with a hammer or something to open it. So those were
Oh,
definitely
we need the
cookies made
Bigfoot to
with
come
love.
get them for you.
yeah, no, those were the things you made with whatever you had on hand, right? So hickory nut might have
Yep.
been the only thing they had around. So boom, you got a hickory
Yep.
nut cookie,
Well, and that was your gift from the Bigfoot.
and you liked it. Oh yeah, that's right. So Don, I loved your example of the cougar. So I have to tell you that the same thing actually happens in Mississippi. My brother, he remains anonymous anytime he watches the show for some reason, but he's obsessed with the fact that black panthers or black cougars, some sort of large black cat, they are not listed as as a real animal in the state of
Right.
Mississippi, but there are numerous people who have seen them and photographed them, and it's just like you said, Donna. Well, why is there no acknowledgement of
No.
it whatsoever?
Yeah, but some of those
Cue the X
sightings
Files
that
music.
posted on my article were the Black Panthers. They call them Black Panthers, and some people think they're
Right.
what's the genetic thing that makes an animal black that's not normally black? But the leopards that are in South America, is that leopards in South America? Because I've seen pictures where you faintly can see the
Right.
spots,
Mm.
but they're black.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yep.
Now, as far as North Carolina, I've actually heard theories on that, and one of my favorites actually revolved around a Bigfoot theory too, but it dates back to a train, a really horrible train accident that occurred in the western part of the state. But I believe that Annie Oakley was on board, or rumored to be on board, and she was actually a part of
Buffalo
uh,
Bill's Wild West Show. Yeah.
the Wild West show.
Hmm.
Yes, and the train crashed, and it was apparently a horrible scene. I believe this was in the 50s, maybe before then. But all these animals, they had all these exotic animals as part of the show, right? And the rumor is so many of them actually escaped in the train wreck, just into the woods and the wilderness, and what became of them, nobody knows.
Wow.
I guess
That's
that could
incredible.
happen. Well, and that's one of the things that the wildlife people will say to explain is that their pets escaped. No, that would make a lot of
Okay.
people having cougars for pets.
And a lot of them escaping.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know.
Right, and there actually is a real life example of a sort of a scenario of this with Pablo Escobar in Colombia, and he liked to keep hippopotamuses on his
What a
drug
strange
estate.
pet.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, and he had a lot of them, and at some point, his estate was raided, and Pablo was arrested, and all the hippopotami were just left to fend for themselves, and they actually, because of the climate in Colombia, they have proliferated, and now Colombia is a hotbed for hippopotamus.
Oh my
Go figure.
gosh.
Yeah, and they all go back to Pablo Escobar's drug estate. Like, they are all traced back to there, which is just an
Aren't they
amazing
pretty
example
aggressive?
of how nature can run a riot, right? Oh yeah, they supposedly kill more animals in Africa every year than anything else, or kill more people, I should say, than any other animal.
One more reason not to visit there.
So you never know.
I'll add that to my list.
So you never know what's out there.
No,
You never know what's out there. Yes. Speaking of, you are listening to All Things Unexplained. We thank you, everybody who has joined in with us. And please do like us and follow us on our social media pages. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can follow us. You can find us at allthings-unexplained.com. Or if you'd like to support us, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/unexplained. And we're here with award-winning author Donna Campbell Smith talking about her new book that I have right here, My Neighbors from the Woods. Go out and get your copy today. And we've got George chiming in again about the white squirrels. And is it Brevard, North Carolina? Did I say that correctly? What are the white squirrels?
I think it is Brevard. I wager to say potentially tasty.
Oh, goodness.
That's what they are.
Oh, the
That's what they are.
Mississippi attitude right there, if I've ever heard one. No, look it up. White squirrels. Oh, look at it. Pops right up. Oh, they have all their own website.
Oh, they have their own website. They're famous. We should probably not hunt the white squirrels of Brevard. Donna, one thing I wondered about you hear something different from every different author, but do you believe in writer's block?
Yeah, I think everybody has. Some experts will say there's no such thing, but I think there's just spells where the muse is just not coming, and you just. I find that the easiest way to get through it is just what they call free write, where you just write. You don't think about what you're going to write, you just write. I'm always surprised at what comes out of that when you don't think about it too hard. It's that way for me too with art. My better things, even that business card, is stuff that I just quickly do without thinking about it too much. Yeah, I think you get stuck. You got to figure out, especially the way I do, which is probably not professional, or I always hated outlines in school and that kind of stuff anyway. Makes it seem like work instead of fun. But
Right.
so I just start writing, and there'll come a point where I don't know where I'm going to go next. And sometimes a change of scenery will help.
Well, what do you like to do when you're not writing, Donna?
I paint. I like photography. I like to go to the beach when I can, but I'm live further away from it than I used to.
To be continued.
You've been listening to All Things Unexplained. If you liked this podcast, please do give us a 5-star rating and leave us a review. If you would like to hear more All Things Unexplained, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you'd like to support our show, please do visit buymeacoffee.com/unexplained. A special thanks to our producer, director, sound mixer, editor, and the man that wears far too many hats. No, seriously, he has a lot of hats, Dr. Tim Mounts. Without you, we couldn't keep the lights on. Thanks for listening to All Things Unexplained.